This is Speaking of Speaking. Quick tips and tools to take you from stage fright to spotlight. This podcast gives you an inside look from the world of public speaking and the speaking secrets you need to be bold from the stage, no matter what business you're in. The host of Speaking, Carl Richards.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, another edition of the Speaking of Speaking podcast. You know what? It's nice to get together with friends every now and again, isn't it? I am getting together today with somebody that I met about 4 or 5 years ago. I call her a friend. I call her a colleague. I call her an amazing individual. I am thrilled she's taken time out of her schedule to chat with us this afternoon. Linda Babulic is a ZESTY executive life coach, author of the #1 international bestseller, Zest Your Life, A Taste of Inner Wisdom. She has over 25 years of experience in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. She's worked with a number of people from all walks of life, including the Right Honourable Kim Campbell, the first female Prime Minister of Canada. And I'm so glad she's here today. Linda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
And today we're talking about connection, and it's great that we can connect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what brought us together, was common connections.
It's funny that it's been, and if you're listening to this after the fact that it's, maybe been a couple of years, but Linda and I met back, I think it was in 2017 at an event called Mo Mondays. And Mo Mondays was one of those platforms, still is, I believe, that connects human story with real people and brings real people to the stage, which is a pretty cool connection unto itself. And it's been an amazing journey ever since then.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about connection and the power of it, Linda, because part of what you do as in your training is you help people with those connections. You help people connect with themselves. You help them with connections with other people. How powerful is connection in your world? How powerful is it?
I think the reason why we're on the planet is for relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not good at your relationships, you're not good at very much. I tell a story in my book about a friend of mine was having an affair with a man who was engaged to another woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why? She says, well, he's a wonderful lover. He's just not very good at relationships. It's like, really? Since he's engaged and he's having an affair, he's not very good at relationships. But I believe that's why we're on the planet. And we'll have difficult relationships. We learn from those. We'll have beautiful relationships. We learn from those too. I think that's why we're here. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many of us walking around on the planet.
Absolutely. And I think that certainly in recent times, we're at this point that we're recording this episode, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And one of the things that has been missing is that physical connection, that we're face-to-face through electronic mediums, whether it be through Facebook or Zoom or any other Microsoft Teams or any portals like that. But that connection of being able to see someone in person, such a different vibe altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to get better at it and make it more heartfelt. And part of that is, what do you bring into the room when you start a meeting? And I find it's not really different than when I'm going networking. If I was getting dressed up to go outside and go networking, there's a certain energy, there's a certain vibration that I want to bring into the room. And Carl, you've seen me in the room, so you know the vibe I bring. It's pretty zesty. And so I bring that same zesty vibration into the online connections. I'm one of the faces when there's 30 people on the screen, I'm going to be one of the ones that's smiling, to be able to connect with people through that and to make them feel at home, just like I would in a face-to-face situation. Welcome, you've never been here before, whatever I can do.
I certainly think that's very important. And I like how you alluded to the fact that even though right now, as again, at the recording of this, we're in a very precarious time where we are meeting a lot of people through technology, but we still need to look and act the part and not, you wouldn't show up to work in your pajamas unless you worked in a pajama factory, like things like that. So you would still look and act the part because you want to, it's a part of your branding, but it's also how you're going to connect with people, moreover, how they're going to connect with you. It's an old saying, but I think it's so true that first impressions are lasting impressions for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm just putting the final touches on my program called Powerful Juicy First Impression.
Mm.
I wrote an article for Canada Fashion Magazine, and in there I said, personal appearance is what you bring into the room. Image is what you leave behind.
I love it. I love it. So powerful. So powerful.
We need to keep that in mind. What image do we want to leave behind, whether we're online? What connection do we want to make?
And I think that leads to the next thing that I wanted to talk about. It goes back to how we met, but the power of the connection through communication. And communication can be many different things, but we obviously met through a platform again called Mo Mondays, a lot about spoken word. But still, that connection, being able to use your communication to create the connections, not only the connections that you want, but the connections that are the best fit or the right fit for you.
Exactly. And it needs to have that consistency. If you want to attract clients that are of a certain caliber, then you need to be of that caliber. If you want clients that are like me, that like to take action and they want to grow and they into some adulting and they want some transformation in their life, I want people that are going to take action and do something, not somebody that just talks about what they're going to do and they don't do anything. So you really need to find that alignment. And that's what connection allows you to do. It helps you, if you're asking good questions, to be able to really see how deep that connection is going to be. It all starts with that first hello.
And I think it's one of those things, too, that new entrepreneurs or startups, they struggle with the connection piece, because I think, having been in a startup, and you at one point were starting too, what do we say when we're starting? Oh, I will coach or I will connect with anybody that wants to do business with me. That's putting the wrong connection or the wrong intention out there, because then you get anything back.
Oh, and sometimes you get the wrong thing back. Like, I've fired clients. And I've fired potential clients that might have been very lucrative. And it's like, no, that's just not going to happen. We're not going to work together. You know, when you're calling a reference for me and it happens to be the VP at Ipsos Reid, it's a busy man, and you put him on hold, you've got problems in your office I can't fix. It's like, you're fired as a client. I'm not taking you on.
Yeah, that's a bigger challenge altogether for sure.
Well, exactly. So we need to really know and have that connection with ourselves, know who I am, what I'm about, what I offer, and then I can clearly articulate it so other people know what I offer. You may not be a potential client for me, and I may not be a potential client for you, but I can refer you to somebody else.
Sure.
And I know other people that need your service. I mean, how many referrals have I given you, Carl, just in the last 3 weeks? I keep sending you notes that I've popped your name in here or there because of the work that you do. And I admire it so much. You're bringing people together.
I do want to talk about that, because I think that's another thing that sometimes as business owners and entrepreneurs, we think more of the dog eat dog or the competition, or I'm going to try and outdo them, as opposed to what you just mentioned, where you say, you know what, if I'm not a fit for you, I'm going to pass your name on to somebody who I think is. Or if I know someone who's looking for a life coach at this level or a podcast mentor, and this is what they need, and I know that Carl's the person, rather than saying, well, you don't want me to help you? That's the wrong connection. That's the wrong way to try and connect with people and win them over.
Yeah, and personally, that doesn't fall into my values. Integrity is one of my top 5 values. And if I do that, I'm not in integrity.
Integrity has always been huge. And I think now more than ever, it's becoming even bigger, because I think that we're moving into a place where people want to connect with real people. They want to know that if they're hiring Linda Babulic, for example, Linda Babulic, by the way, my guest today, ZESTY executive life coach. We're going to talk about her book in just a moment, by the way. But if you want to connect with Linda Babulic, you want to connect with the real person. You don't want to connect with the administrative assistant to the administrative assistant to the VP of this to the this. You want to connect with Linda. You want to know that if you're getting coaching and training from Linda, even if it's a program you put online, that it's still Linda. It's not some watered down version of Linda. It's the real Linda.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it works. And I think that's one of the things that we're moving more towards. I think people are realizing that I want the real Linda. I don't, or the real Carl, or I want a piece of that real person. I don't want the fake version of it, or I don't want somebody that just took the training course to get the certification.
Oh, exactly.
They want the integrity. They want to hear Linda's voice. I remember signing into, and I know you're a lover of The Secret, I remember signing up for a John Assaraf program.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that I questioned before I even signed on the dotted line is, am I getting any part of John Assaraf? Now, I knew I wasn't getting the real John Assaraf. I was getting the recordings of John Assaraf, but I knew I was going to be hearing his voice, his passion, everything that I saw in his whatever event that I had attended where he was at. I can't remember the name of it. It's just escaped my mind. But I was still getting a piece of John Assaraf. That's what I was getting. And that's so important when you're trying to make connections is, are people getting the real you, or at least a version of you that they feel they can connect with?
Absolutely. And that's how my book came about, because I did workshops first, because I wanted to prove and validate the materials. This isn't stuff off the top of my head. This isn't stuff, oh, I think that'll work. You know how many business cards I gave out for Mo Mondays here in Ottawa. I think it was well over 2,500 business cards. That's a lot of handshakes. That's a lot of connections. So I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And I know flipping me your business card doesn't work if there's no connection first.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned business cards, because lately, of course, in the digital world we're in, a lot of people are doing the digital business card or the electronic business card. Even that doesn't have the same, if I don't know you, if I haven't made a connection with you and you just flip me a digital business card, what am I going to do with it? It's going to go into my electronic trash bin, just like an old school business card would go in my recycling bin or some other place. So
that disappoints me, because you know what I do with my business cards, my paper business cards? I put essential oils in the box that smell like orange. So when you get my business card, they smell like orange.
Here's the thing though, you're just not handing out. And if somebody randomly picked up your business card, say they were at a trade show and they picked up your business card, what makes it different is the sniff test, basically. It's a little bit more.
Oh my God, that could be very vulgar that I get the sniff test before I make the connection.
But it's a connection that no one else is probably doing.
Huh? They remember me. Often people don't remember my name, but as soon as I say Zest Your Life, they go, oh yeah, I know you. That's how Marcia Weeder, who's been on Oprah about 6 times, ended up friending me and endorsing my book. We were at a conference together and she asked me who I was, and I told her I was writing a book, Zest Your Life. And she said, oh, where are you from? I said, thinking I was clever, I said, oh, I live in a little cabin in the woods in Canada. And she burst out laughing. I said, that amuses you? She said, yes, I live in a penthouse in Hollywood, in Beverly Hills. Her zip code is 90210.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, and it's that connection. You know, you would think something like that would have pushed us apart, but it didn't. It connected us more because she could see the humor in it. That here she is in a penthouse in Beverly Hills, and I'm on 8 acres in Ontario.
Right. It's amazing, too, how really alluded to something that I think is very important that we should talk about, and that's the power of humor when you're making connections. You can be all serious and businesslike, which is important. I mean, you have to put on your professional face and do all of those things. But humor goes a long way. And I know it's subjective, but the right kind of humor or the right amount of humor can go a long way in making that connection.
And it doesn't, I laugh easy. It doesn't take much to make me laugh. You know that. I find humor in a lot of things. I mean, it's just the world is too messed up to take it too seriously.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good point. Linda, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your book a little bit. It's been around for, 4 or 5 years now?
5 years. I celebrated the 5th anniversary on November the 5th.
Happy anniversary. I don't know what 5 is. Is that wood or clocks, or is that another? I can't even remember my anniversary list. But anyways, talk about your book a little bit. What can people find if they pick up a copy and start turning the pages?
Well, a couple of things. In fact, a lot of couples read it together. I wrote it for women, but men love it too. I have some great testimonials from men about it. And I wrote it because I was at a women's circle and I said something. And one of the women said, if you did a workshop on that, I'd go. And I did a workshop, and then it turned into 4 workshops. And it was on awakening the woman within. They had turned into the 4 sections in my book: creating emotional maturity, connection between mind and body, and then living your zest. So it was about all of the aspects, about the emotional, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and the catalyst energy. I went on my first vision quest in 2003, and that infuses everything that I do. So I have that strong connection to spirit. I have it to the divine, the goddess, the God, whatever you want to call it. And that's infused within the book. And my editor, who's quoted on the back of my book, sent me a note and said, I'm truly enjoying editing your book. I find myself getting happier as I'm reading it. And she does hundreds of books in a year. So that's very significant. And people do feel that it's uplifting. It's dense. You're not going to read that in a weekend. There's exercises in it, and you can download the workbook that goes with it. There's a meditation, a relationship meditation that goes with it that you can download. There's a series of values cards that you can print off, and then you can know your values, because values guide us, integrity being one of them. So all of those bonuses come with the book. You read it, you do the homework, the workbook in it, and your life will change, because hundreds of people have told me that that book has changed their lives.
Wow. Sounds like a phenomenal read. Linda Babulic, again, is my ZESTY guest today, the ZESTY Executive Life Coach. So thrilled that she's had a chance to chat with us today. Linda, you're working on a number of different things. You have some things that you're working on, and I know that's part of what you wanted to pass along to the audience is some of the new resources or new information that you're almost ready to pass.
Yes, we're gonna press the go button on it. I have been doing my training programs online using Facebook groups, and that doesn't work very well because the insecurity of Facebook right now, you don't know which way it's going to go. So I've been putting my programs now on a platform so people can just go in and download the programs right there. I've also rekindled my ZEST Circle for Women, ZEST Wisdom Circle, and we had our webinar on Monday. So I may, depending on the demand, bring the ZEST Wisdom Circle for Women back up again. It would be a monthly meeting. I used to do it live. It's a little challenging, but there's a lot of great teachings in there about women. And even when I work with my one-on-one clients, I draw on those ancient women's teachings that are so rich and so powerful. Our session on Monday night was about womb power, which is something a lot of people don't think about. But you came from one, and it's that connection. You still have a womb space, even if you're a man. Even if you don't have a womb, you have a womb space. And it's that great connection that brings us through our lineage, through our DNA. That's what connects you to your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother. It's really very powerful teachings, and I just love doing them. I'm very passionate about it. It infuses all of my work.
Wow. Certainly a phenomenal discussion we've had today about connection. If you'd like to connect with Linda, she actually has a resource for you that she's going to pass along your way.
And that is my Dreams and Desires Vision document workshop. I do it as a workshop also, because everything starts with your vision. I discourage people from doing vision boards by starting with a magazine, or you're going to end up cutting out a Bentley and Oprah's house. So you need to be clear on your vision. What do you want? What do you want emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually? How are you going to bring all of that together to have the rich, zesty life that you want? Then you can build your vision board. But it's all about gaining that vision. I just taught that workshop in Dallas, Texas, a couple of weeks ago, Lincoln, Nebraska, just before Christmas. It's very powerful, and people are really loving it. So for your guests, because they're here listening to this podcast, they can download the worksheets that go with it.
Wow, phenomenal. Thank you so much, Linda, for passing that along. Linda Babulic, any final thoughts before we say goodbye, at least for now?
I find it hard to leave a podcast or leave an audience without giving them a call to action. And the call to action is, within the next 24 hours, connect with someone. You can connect with someone that you've never met. You can connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Carl's putting all of those in there. Connect with me. Let me know where you found me. Connect with somebody that you haven't connected with for a while. Just to say hello. Our friend Michel Nere called me on my birthday. He said, I'm not sending you a text. He picked and an old friend I had not talked to for 3 years called me on my birthday. I don't want to say happy birthday online. I just wanted to hear your voice. So let's just do that. For the next 24 hours, think about someone that you can connect with, and you're going to make their day. They'll feel so great about it.
Linda Babulic, thank you so much for connecting, or shall I say reconnecting.
Yeah.
It's been so much fun having you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time, get out there and own the platform.
Thanks for listening to the Speaking of Speaking podcast. Fired up about something you heard today? Want to learn more? Be sure to visit carlspeaks.ca. And don't forget to follow Carl on Twitter @CarlRichard72 or join the Facebook group Speaking of Speaking.